Thank you, and welcome everybody. This is our Getting Started with ShareFile, our June edition. So thank you so much for joining. My name is John. I'm a Senior Customer Success Engineer. I'm joined here with Ricardo. I'm going to let him introduce himself. Ricardo?
Thanks, John. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ricardo Everson, and excited to co-facilitate with John today.
Yeah, awesome. So we got a good one for you guys today. Again, more on the getting started, something more of a refresher and just kind of the basics. If you're familiar with ShareFile, it's always good to kind of step back a little bit and understand, some of the basic values of ShareFile. So that's what we're going to cover today. All right, so let's get the demo. I'm going to pass this actually over to Ricardo to start out with, and I'll be back on for the other half. And Ricardo, go ahead and take it away.
Everyone should be seeing a Gmail email account here.
Yep.
All right, great. So before you log in, what you're usually going to see is what's known as an activation email. Now, this particular activation email is set up for a client user, so we're going to see that process. We'll go over employee users here in a little bit, but as you are invited to an account, you would simply click on Activate Account. Then you're going to be directed to where you're going to enter your password and start creating that. First, it's going to ask for some demographics. I assigned demo user to this particular user, but you would have your first name, last name here. If you want to enter a company name, that's fine as well. And then click continue. And then you're going to create your password. Make sure that it is confirmed the same as your top there. I'm just going to go ahead and then click save and sign in. Once that is finalized, you'll be taken to your dashboard for the account. Now, this account logged into my admin portion, but I'm going to log back out and just show you what the client side of things look like really quick. So I'll go ahead and put in that email address, and then my password, and clicks. And as you can see, the client portal is going to be a bare minimum. You're not really going to see folders or anything of that nature. It's just going to have your inbox. As John mentioned, if the account is tied to premium plan, you'll have your projects area, but it's fairly simple here for the client user. So I'm going to log back out and log in as my admin. But before we do that, I do want to note the unique identifier for your account, which is the subdomain. And the address bar at the top, that's usually going to be identified by companyname.sharefile.com. So this first part before .sharefile will be your subdomain. If you don't know that, you can simply go back to your activation email, and that's going to be listed towards the bottom of the email under ShareFile URL. Again, the first part before .sharefile.com is going to be the subdomain, and that's a good way to identify whether you're in the right account or not. So just keep that in mind. And as I log in as an admin, we'll go over the navigation pane on the left-hand side. So once you log in, the main area you're going to be directed to is known as the dashboard here. And it's a generic landing spot where you can perform multiple actions of a ShareFile account. What we're seeing here are a couple tiles. We have recent files, and this will list any file that you have touched prior to your login. We have the shortcuts area where you can, again, perform actions of your ShareFile account, and they'll all be listed in one spot here. And then we have a tutorials area where there'll be some videos and product documentation links to help navigate you on how to use ShareFile. You can edit this area. If you go to the top right-hand side, you'll see Edit Dashboard, and then it will allow you to toggle on the tiles that you want to see. If I toggle on favorites here and then click save, I now see that I have a favorites tab listed here. And you can also move these to your location of liking. If you just hover your mouse over the tiled area, once you see that cross with the triangle or the arrows, you can choose the location that you want to place that. So this is, again, just a one-stop shop to do a lot of other things in ShareFile. So you don't have to really navigate and do a lot of clicking to get to it. The other thing I wanted to mention was with two-factor authentication. That can be part of an account if it's turned on or enabled by the account admin. This will make employee users who are asked to be a part of the account enter a cell phone number so they can receive a code to finalize that multi-factor authentication. So I did mention earlier, the client users have a bare minimum. What I want to do now is just show you that for an employee user on how that multi-factor would look. So I'm going to go back into my clients and actually delete this test user I just created so I can use that same email. That's another good point. If you are using internal domains, those can only be used as employees. So if you're basically, you can't have the same email domain for an employee and a client. So when I go into my employees here, I'm going to click on create, just do a quick email user, and then enter that same email address. Bypass all this for now, just create continue anyway, and then send my notification. So now, when I go back into my email here, I should receive another activation email related to that employee. Demo test at gmail.com. That's right. There we go. So when I click on activate accounts, because this is employee user, the first thing it should have me do is enter my cell phone to receive that two-factor. There we go. So I'm not going to enter my phone number, but you guys get the gist of, as an employee user, you're entering this to get a code, and then what you're going to see is what we saw with the client user. You'll be able to proceed with creating your password. All right. So the next thing on the left, or our navigation pane here, is as we expand folders, we have two separate folder areas. We have personal folders, which is pretty self-explanatory. This is an area where you want to keep items that you and only you want to see. And we also have shared folders. This is the area where you as a company will keep internal information. So if you're working on things collectively, this is the area where you're most likely going to have those folders reside. As we go down, we have favorites. Anything that I star, whether it be a folder, or if I go into a folder and star a particular document, those will be listed in my favorites area here. So again, if you don't want to dig down, if you got a folder with a lot of subfolders, You don't want to have to dig down to find particular items. You can just simply star those and they'll be listed in your favorites and have easy access. And to remove, just de-star them and they'll go back. They'll be removed from favorites. Below that, we have the file box. This area is a generic landing spot for documents, especially when you create share and request links. If you're choosing a document that does not reside in ShareFile and you're choosing to share that through a secure link, it has to be a part of ShareFile at some point in order for you to use a link. This is the area where it lands temporarily, so you can send that secure link. Same for if you're creating a request link to retrieve data, this will be the landing spot by default where that data goes through a request link. The most important thing to note here is the retention for this area, 180 days. If anything is in here past 180 days, it's going to be removed from this area and no longer be a part of the account. So if you have something you want to stay in your account longer than 180 days, we recommend that you move it to a folder that has a more permanent retention. Underneath that, we have the recycle bin. This is an area where items go when you delete them from the account. It doesn't note this, but by default, it has a 45-day retention. So again, if anything is in here past 45 days, it's going to automatically be deleted and completely removed from the account and cannot be recovered. So it's really important that if you have items you want to remain a part of the account, that you find a more permanent spot for them. So if I were to go into a folder and say delete this, see, it's no longer in my e-signature folder, but when I come to the recycle bin, it's right there. If I had deleted this by accident, I can simply select it, choose restore, and it's going to go right back to the location where I deleted it from. There we go. So again, with the file box and recycle bin, it's really important to remember those retentions in case you want to keep data longer than what they are saying. Next, as we scroll down, we were going to go to the inbox. So this is a generic spot where you can see items that you have received and also see links or data that you have sent out to share. You can also compose encrypted emails through these areas simply by clicking on compose, typing in the email address you want to send something to, and then adding items as needed, either from files that are already in your ShareFile account or choosing locally from your device. And as John mentioned earlier, with premium accounts, you're going to have other areas known as projects and signatures. A little later, John will show you how to initiate a document for e-signature, but these are two other areas that you'll see on your left-hand side. Now, earlier I mentioned employee users and client users. It's really important to note that employee users are the user types that actually take up your license count. As an admin, you can see what you're allocated by clicking on settings, going to admin settings, and underneath admin overview, I have my allocated license here. So at this point, I have, out of the 50 employee licenses that I have bought for my account, 11 are being used. So every time you create an employee user, you will see this get closer and closer to 50. You can have as many client users as you want, but employee users are the ones that are taking up your licenses you purchased for your account. By default, usually employee users will have the ability to manage or create client users. And as we go back into the one I just created, the demo user here, when I open up their settings and scroll down and go to user access, I can see they have the ability to manage clients, but they can't create employees. So if I were an admin and if I wanted this particular employee user to have some more capabilities, this would be the area where I come to give them those permissions. If you want them to have everything, just simply select all. But again, by default, your employee users are usually going to have this selected as part of their access. And lastly, on the left-hand side, I did want to show you distribution groups. And this area is important because if you had a folder that you wanted to add a number of people on, say you have two different departments that need to work out of the same folder, but you don't want to add 20 separate people to the folder, you could create a distribution group, throwing 5 in one group and 5 in another. And when you go back to that folder, we'll travel to a folder here. All I would need to do is simply select the separate distribution groups rather than selecting 20 separate people. And I would do that by clicking on people, add to folder. I would click my book icon, and then the drop down, choose distribution group. And then select the distribution groups I want to add. The reason that I'm only able to select this one is because this is the only distribution group that actually has people added to it. These other ones don't have people added to them yet. So as I add people to them, you will see a checkbox to the left appear, allowing you to select them. So just click add. And at this point, you have the capability of giving, say, 5 separate people the same permissions. So you could, it's more of a, I guess, a better way to assign permissions to multiple people at once. So all the people in this distribution group at this moment can view, download, and upload. And then just click add. And now I see my distribution group here. And permissions can be adjusted at any time. So if I came back one day and wanted them to now receive upload alerts, I would just select upload alerts, then click save. So that's essentially the navigation pane. What we're going to do now is take a look at a couple different ways on how to share and request data. I'm going to show you the main way from the dashboard. Again, this is our one-stop area. So I have the opportunity to share files through the shortcuts. And to do that, I can simply click on Share Files. And at this point, I can pull data locally from my machine or choose data that is already in ShareFile. Hovering over Browse Files gives me the option to do that. I'm going to choose from computer. And we'll just choose my Morales picture here, click open. And now it's uploaded. So if you remember when I mentioned earlier, the file box, this file is now in the file box and is allowing me to create a secure link to share. So once that is done, click continue. I'm presented with the opportunity to create a third-party link to copy and paste, or I can simply just send it through an email associated with ShareFile. When I click on create link, it's giving me the link to copy here. This is my share link noted. And there's options that you could do as far as editing the link. When I click on edit options, it's going to ask me now who I want to access this link. what I want the people who are accessing the link, what I want them to do with it. So, right now, all they can do is download. But if I didn't want them to download it, I just want them to see it, I would select view. As far as who can access, by default, it is at this point saying that anyone public must enter in an email. But if I wanted a little bit more security, I would choose client and employee users of my account can access this link, but they have to do so after signing in. If I just wanted only employee users to do so, I would select the bottom. And again, we see our access expires, and this is how long the link will last. So at this point, after 179 days, the link is going to break and no one else can use it. But again, we have other options as we scroll down here: 3 months, 30 days, a week, and so forth. Always link to the latest version. You have the capability of having a document have more than one version, which is called file versioning in ShareFile. So if I had a particular document, you had this turned on as far as file versioning, this is saying that the link I create is only going to take the recipient to the most recent version of that. We have a watermark option. And then lastly, I can be notified when the link has been clicked on and access to either view the document or download the documents. Those are some of the options for the link. I'm going to just go to cancel out of here really quick. And we have a similar view if you want to send an email. At this point, it's going to allow you to type, body text for your email. You're entering your email address of who you want to send it to. Just by typing in a couple of characters, you'll find the user you're looking for and just select them. And again, if I want to encrypt the body of the email along with my file, I would just turn this on. But note that the file itself is already encrypted with the link. This is just going to encrypt whatever body text I type in the message box. And down at the bottom, if I'm sending this email multiple times and don't want to have to continue to retype the subject, I can just click remember subject and message, and that will automatically be populated every time I send an email. All right, so I'm going to back out of there, and we'll look at request files. Somewhat similar. So if I'm doing it from the dashboard, I would just choose request files. By default, remember that file box area, anything I request or ask for is going there. But if I wanted to go to a more permanent spot, I would simply click on edit and then choose a folder to have that data lie. You can choose personal folders as well, but 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to be choosing a folder underneath your shared folders here. You can also edit the options for this area as well. So let's say if I just wanted a link, I have my link populated here that I can copy as far as requesting data. And then when I click on edit options, I have my access options here. You can access this link. At this point, client and employee users must sign in to use this link in order to give me data. But we have our other options here. And this link is lasting 180 days. So if I want it to be shorter, just scroll down and choose one below. Longer, scroll up and choose one above 100. And I'm going to be notified when files are uploaded via this link. Cancel back out. And then again, the email option is very similar to what we saw with sharing data. So, when you create shares, share links, the system is going to sort of read over that document and determine if it has personal information inside the document. And if it does, it's going to sort of send you a warning saying, hey, we might want to take a look at the options of this link to make it more secure, since we are detecting some personal information. So you'll get little guidance tidbits and things of that nature along the way as you're sharing data. I think that's pretty much it from my end, John. I will turn it over to you, and we'll continue to go on with sending documents via e-signature.
Yeah, appreciate it, Ricardo. Let me go ahead and steal the screen from you. All right, Ricardo, do you see my screen?
Yes, I sure do.
Perfect, awesome. That was really awesome information, especially if you're just starting out with ShareFile. Definitely Ricardo touched on a lot of essential parts in terms of navigating and sending and requesting files. So that's definitely a good start to get your feet wet with ShareFile. But let's take it to the next step. Now, Ricardo did point out that we do have a couple premium features like projects and signatures. That does come only with our premium licensing. So if you don't see the signature option there, you may not have the ability to send a signature. But your account is always able to upgrade to premium. We make it very simple. So if that's something that I'm going to show you today that you could actually need in your organization, definitely reach out to your account manager, and we'll take care of you. So Ricardo touched a little bit about folders and data that you've uploaded to ShareFile. Let's take a quick look with signatures to be able to send out an actual document to get a signature. Ricardo just demonstrated how to collaborate with somebody, share something with them, also request data from them. But let's say if there was a document that I needed somebody to sign, and I've already uploaded it to one of my folders. And say, for instance, this is a new hire. I like to use this one because it's a short and sweet kind of onboarding practice. We do have other workflows and processes to help onboard clients and employees, but we're just taking this as a simple test to show how to get a document quickly signed. So if you saw what I did there, I just checked the file and I used the send for signature at the top. Now, of course, I could have approached this and went to that signature tab on the left and started a request from there. But I just wanted to show how you can actually easily do it if there's a file that's already existing in your folder. So we have our nice little document here that I have selected. I have the ability to enter in who I'm dealing with. And as you can see, if they're already in the system as a client or employee, their names will automatically come up. And I could choose Sir John Doe here, and I could set him as the signer. Now, if, say, for instance, I needed to add more recipients, and for instance, I needed somebody else, say, to come in here as a viewer, which are just there to see the document through, make sure everything looks like it's in order to be signed, I could set them as a viewer. And if I had multiple signers, I have the ability then to set those signers in order based on when they actually need to sign it. I can also do this in bulk as well, if I had multiple people I'm sending this to. And then if I did only have, say, myself as a signer, if I needed to digitally sign this document, only myself, I can toggle this, and then I would just be the one signing this document. Now, just to showcase as well, you might have been familiar if you've been with us for a while. We used to have the right signature solution, which was separate from ShareFile. And as you see this is a lot more native as we kind of integrate this directly in the ShareFile. There's less of a switch in between different windows and browsers to get this signed. So this is our newer native signature functionality. So as you can see, some of this flow has changed if you're used to seeing this a different way. This is a little more natural and a little more easier to get that document signed. So I'm just going to set up a simple document to get sent out. As you can see, very simple. I just need a signature field that I'm just going to drag and drop. I need a printed name, and I need a date from them when they're going to sign it. As you can see here, you do have options for each field. If I need to require it, I need to have a clear background, I can name it, I can remove them if I want to. So you do have a lot of customization with the ability to add different fields within your signature. Also, a great thing we've just came out with is having native templates that you can add into here. So if this is a constant thing, you're always onboarding new clients or employees, you can have this templated and also add in merge fields. So you can easily grab and capture information and make this something that you can send out quite regularly. I'm just going to get to the next step here. A couple of cool things that you might notice with the new native signature, again, if you've been with us for a little bit, is now you do have at the top here a location and where I want to return the signed documents. Now, as you saw, I grabbed this document from my customer one folder, so it's going to default there. But if I need to edit this and send this off to, say, a folder that I set up for the client that's signing this, say like I have Mr. Jojo Sparks here, I can select that and the signed document will come into that folder instead of my original customer one folder, which it originated from. Down below here, I have various different settings. I have the ability to add some notes there if you need John Doe to kind of listen to any kind of instructions I may have. I have an expiration when it's going to be voided after a certain period of time before it's not signed. And I have other advanced options, like I can add a passcode, so they need to enter that passcode in before they get signed. And we do also have knowledge-based authentication for the signature side. So 2 great security options to even protect this document further in terms of who's going to be signing it. Also, within the native signature functionality, we've added defaults. So this can help default things that you're used to having when you are sending these signatures out or these documents for signatures out. So you have a couple of different ways of customizing this so that this way, next time you send it out, it would abide by some of these different permissions, but we're not going to get into much of this today. So other than that, I can send for signature and off it goes. And then at that point, the client will receive that notification via email and they'll go through a simple wizard to get that signed. I'm not going to show that today just for time's sake, but I did want to showcase what it looks like once it does get returned. Because as you see here, we had one previously done. And the signed completed document is in a PDF form. And as you see here, we have John Doe's signature. And down below, we have all of the documentation and information that was preceded when they actually signed it. So this is a great little audit of what actually occurred when we did send this out. As you can see, we have timestamps. We have it from the IP address that the person signed it from. So you have a nice flow of understanding who touched it, when they signed it. So this can be something that you have as a keepsake in terms of having this saved within the folder for the client. So as you see, we've really integrated a lot of that e-signature functionality. Again, we just came out with templates, so that's another step in the right direction in terms of being easily able to send those documents out quite frequently. But just wanted to quickly show you how that looks when I'm sending out a document for a signature. All right, so let's get a little bit more into folders. Ricardo touched a little bit about adding, say, a distribution group to a folder. But let's talk a little deeper into what makes a folder a folder. First off, on the left, Ricardo kind of went through this a little bit, but you have 2 locations in where folders can exist. You have personal folders, which is more meant for, say, your My Documents, right? On Windows, you have a My Documents space where you're keeping your important documents that you may not share out. Think of this as just a personal space where you want to keep those documents for easy retrieving. But I can share, of course, data from here, create folders, and so forth. So I still have that ability I can share out from here, but just think of this again more as a space for your own use when you're dealing with documentation and collaboration. Shared folders is all the folders that you're creating to share out to people, or if you've been added to a folder, they will show up under the shared folder section. So you might have had people come to you and say, hey, I just added you to a new client folder. Can you see if you can see it? You will be notified by email, but also you should be able to go in your shared folders and see what all has been shared with you. You'll notice these little stars to the left of each item, folders and also documents. That is a little favorite icon. And if it's something that, say, you're going to access quite frequently, you can always star them. And then you'll go into your favorite section. And you'll notice I have now my favorite folder here for Jojo Sparks. And I can easily access that from your folders, your favorite section. Now, let's talk a little bit about folders, because you might be thinking about, well, what if I don't necessarily want to share off a couple different documents at a time, just like you saw in Ricardo's demonstration. But say, for instance, it's an ongoing project and I need a client to be able to access the data I'm uploading into this folder. That's where you have the people section up here after you created the folder. And I can add various people with employees or clients to the folder so they can gain access. So we can simply click on the add people. And again, I could start looking for names if I needed to, like Mr. John Doe here. And then I have the ability to choose the different permissions that he will actually get. So these are pretty straightforward in terms of what they are. By default here, as you see, they have view, download, and upload, but the most minimum they would have permission-wise is the view option, which only allows them to view the documents that are in the folder, and that's it. But then I want John Doe to be able to download data from there. Maybe he's going to upload some items into there. Maybe we're collaborating on something. If you want to give them control of being able to delete items within there, you can give them access. And if you want to make them an administrator, you can give them the admin permission. The admin permission gives that person the ability to actually add in other people into that folder and control other things such as reports and setting different advanced items within the folder. So be careful in who you access or give access to as an admin. You don't want to give everyone access as an admin to your folders, because then that starts to become a little bit of a nightmare in terms of controlling what they're doing with the folder itself and who they're adding. Down below here, you do also have the ability to email yourself with, of course, the options of if something was downloaded or uploaded. This will send you a notification of what occurs. So for John Doe, if I check those, he's going to be notified both if there was a file downloaded or if there was an upload completed on the folder. And then you do have the ability to notify this user that they have access. That's what I was kind of mentioning, the email notification when they do get added to a folder. You don't have to necessarily notify them that way through email. So you can always uncheck that, or you can also add a personal message to it. And then also you'll see down here, apply the settings to subfolder. So if I'm giving John Doe complete access here, this is going to have an effect on any subfolder I have in here from the customer one folder. So just be wary of that, because this is on by default. If you don't want to give John Doe access to all the subfolders within customer one, then I want to make sure that I turn that option off. So again, this is a great way to give, again, a user, an employee or a client access directly to a folder so they can download and upload items willingly, instead of, say, creating a share or request link every time you need to collaborate with them. This is definitely the go-to if it's a long-term project, you're working with somebody internally, or if you have a client that you're working with on various things. Mention a way of accessing that data all the time through a means of a folder. All right, so let's step into a little bit more of the customization part. So you may have a couple of different options down here in your settings panel. You do always have the personal settings folder. If you're an administrator, you have administrative rights within your user account. You will see the admin settings. But let's touch on just the personal settings today. So in the personal settings, as you see here, I can edit things like my name. I can add a profile picture if I wanted to. I could change my password. Down here, I do have also the ability to edit my email address or add an alternative if I needed to. And most importantly, also, you'll come down here. This is somewhat new. If you've been with us on a couple of webinars, I actually just did a webinar last week around some security features that we've just released. And this is actually one of them, where it will actually alert you based on unusual suspective activity, such as kind of logging in from a different country or logging in from a different device. So by default, these are all on already. So, you would have these enabled. I would say to leave these alone in particular. If you're an administrator, you do have the ability to control this on the back end to turn these off as well. But again, check out our webinar that we hosted last week to learn a little bit more about security threat notifications. And then lastly, down here, we do have email notification frequency. This is quite important. I do hear a lot that, of course, in our day and age, you do get a lot of notifications. Say, for instance, by default, you're in real time. So that means you're going to get a notification in real time when something happens. In that scenario, such like I created the folder and I created upload alerts. If, say, for instance, I don't want to get an email every time somebody uploads something to that folder, I could switch this to say once a day, which then at that point, it will give you a digest of all the notifications that happened for your account in a whole day span with just one email towards the end of the day. So if you do have a bit of a full email box, if you will, and you want to kind of control that frequency, you do have various options to help create a digestive email where you'll see all the activity in a certain amount of span that you particularly select here. Down below, you do also have your time zone if you wanted to change that, and of course, in accordance to where you are currently. And over here, you do have a couple different options here to reset your two-step verification. If you're an administrator, you will have a security question option here. In case, of course, it does ask you for that additional information, you could change the security question. And then you do have other things down here where it pertains to third-party connectors. If you had any of those assigned to you, these are things that we help aggregate from different other sources like Google Drive or Box or SharePoint. You do also have the ability as a client and employee to use FTP to make that connection to your instance and be able to upload and download. So you do have that. And then lastly, you could see all the apps and devices you've logged into or you have access to from here. And one good thing is if you lost a device or say you're going through a security audit with all your devices, you just want to be sure that everything is cleaned up. You can revoke all computers. So this will wipe out any trusted devices you already had. And then once you try to log into one of those trusted devices, it will be asking you to re-log in case it was saving any information there. All right, so other than the personal information, there are other customizations you would like to actually do with ShareFile. As you see, my color at the top of the bar has changed over to like a teal color. That all has to do with your branding. Now, again, as you saw, I entered the admin settings here. So if you're an administrator, this is important for you because you'll only have access to this. And you'll see down here, you have the company, edit company branding under the company account info. From here, you'll have different appearance options. You'll see the basic stuff like your header background and your accent color. As you see, like that bar at the top is black. Also, if I wanted to change my logo, I can change it from here, and also the page title. If you want to get a little deeper with that, you could click on the advanced options. And as you can see, you have different ways of branding the instance even further. So for instance, a lot of people do choose to change up their login page. As you see, I have some customization done here. It's a great way to make it feel a little more homely. And then down here, you do have email options. So those notifications that get sent out from ShareFile to users, it's very, very good idea to actually set up your logo in there. And if you wanted to add a header or footer text within those notifications, it gives, again, a bit more of a plausible understanding it's coming from you as the company. So you could definitely customize that a bit more. All right, so let's head back over to our dashboard. Now, this was a great walkthrough of just some things that you could do within the web interface, but you might be asking yourself, hey, I don't want to particularly use a browser every time I access my instance. What are some other options that I have to access my ShareFile data? Well, you'll see at the top right here, you'll have an app section. And within the app section, we have it categorized off to the left to help filter out a bit if you're a Windows or a Mac user. But these are great options to have, such like the ShareFile for Windows. It allows you to create a separate entity within Explorer. So you can access it just like a shared drive to access your files in your instance. We also have an Outlook plugin for the local version and also for our online version to be able to send out shares quickly. Instead of you coming in the web interface, creating a share like Ricardo showed you, you could simply use our plugin to instantly make a share or a request link and send that out directly from Outlook. And we do also have it for Gmail. Same thing for the Mac section over here that we have. And we do have mobile applications, which these are actually going to be revamped very shortly. But some of these help with being on the go on your mobile device to be able to access your instance. And we lastly have third-party integrations. This is, again, more for the administrative side to add in, but things like QuickBooks and Salesforce, we have third-party integrations to help integrate data from those third-party sources. All right, so lastly, we are coming up to time here. We have about 10 more minutes. We want to get to Q&A. I did want to show a couple things here about our resource icon at the bottom right here. You'll notice this has a ton of different what's new, what is going on with getting started, just like we're talking about today. So we have some walkthroughs that you could go through. We do have support articles that are commonly talked about here that we're always constantly updating. And lastly, we have how-tos that we're always adding here so that you can quickly watch them. If you're an administrator, you may also see that you can reach out to your CSE, somebody like myself or Ricardo. So if you do see that in your resource panel, definitely give us a reach out to ask for additional help, such as one-on-one help. So you may see that as an administrator down here as well. We do also have a support page. You can always go to support.sharefile.com. This should take you to the landing page here. We have tons of things, like we do have our own community, which you can post in our forum and ask questions that way. And this is a great way if you're just asking around for additional help. We do have panelists like we have on today on here to help answer those. And also, if you do need, say, support, something breaks, you can come down here, chat with us, and talk to a live agent, and they'll be able to create a case for you to continue further if it does go a little deeper in them providing anything helpful. Also, I do always love to showcase the status page. You would want to keep this bookmarked all the time, because if, say, for instance, something is happening, you see that all your users can't access your instance, this is probably the best way to go and tell if we're having a global outage. If you go to status.sharefile.com, you can always subscribe to updates, and you'll be sure to see if we had any past incidents, what occurred here, and if we're having any current issues, we'll also post it here as well. All right, I think that does it. I think we gave a little bit of an overview of what to understand, how to do some basic steps within ShareFile to get started. And I saw some great questions during Ricardo's session, but Allison, I'm going to pass it over to you. Perhaps we have some that we can answer live that we couldn't answer during our session.
We definitely do have some great ones, and I picked my favorites already. But feel free to add them in there, guys. If you still have some, go ahead and type them out. First question: when using the anyone public must enter name and email option to send a link, is access limited to the users whose email address is the sender, or somebody that's added to the folder, or is that unrestricted? Yes, I think this is a common misconception. I think we need to make it really clear how that process works.
Okay, so let me kind of understand here. So if say, for instance, I'm choosing a file to actually send out, and this could be local or within ShareFile, I'm going to go ahead and share this document out. And I'm going to tell it to create a link. And we can edit that option. Oops. Looks like I got closed here. Let me try that again. Choose this doc again, continue. There we go. Now, of course, we do have the link here, but if we wanted to edit those options, I'm not too sure why I am getting that. Let me choose one from a folder here. We'll try it that way.
And I think that's what the customer is doing. They're sharing a file from a folder, creating a link that requires name and email, but asking if it's if only the people that have access to that folder can access it, or does that make that link make that file accessible by even people that don't have access to the folder?
Okay, that's now I understand a little better. Right. So if I'm creating this actual share, now I'm not sure why my options aren't working, but it did create, of course, my unique link here that I can copy off and I can send over to anybody. Now, they don't have to be part of this folder. I'm just selecting this document, or I have multiple documents that I'm selected, or even a folder with all the data in it that I can share out. I don't need anyone to be a part of that folder that are in here. I'm just simply sending that off from here, creating that link, and they'll be able to access it based on the options that I'm giving them, such as giving them the ability to download or just the view. And as I demonstrated when creating a folder and adding people, say, for instance, I added Cord here. Now Cord has the ability to view, download, upload, and he's an administrator, and he could delete items. So Cord can come right into the shared folder here and be able to access all the files and folders that are here. And I don't need to actually create a share for them to send out. Cord can simply come in this folder because he has all the ability to download and upload into here. So I think that is a good question. Is there's just those two ways of thinking about it. Is if this document I have selected here and I need to send out, I don't necessarily need to give, say, the person I'm sending full access to everything here. It's just one document I need to send them. This is the best way to go, and to be able to copy this link and send it over to them through other means. Or, of course, I can send directly through email from here. But that, again, does not mean that Cord needs to be a part of this folder if I'm going to share this single document out to him. But I think that is a good misconception, because there are several ways of how we are collaborating. And the big difference there is I can share out certain items in the folder if I want them to be, but I don't need to give them permanent access or access temporarily here in the folder for them to see those files and folders.
Yep. And then with the link, all they can download is that one file, right? They can't see the whole folder. They can't upload files back to you, things like that. And if you did want to share that link to somebody like Cord who is on this folder and just like, hey, I added this file to your folder, you could do that. I mean, there's no harm in doing that too. So, and that would work. So there's multiple ways to do pretty much everything in ShareFile.
Yes, yeah. I, definitely based on just your interaction. And yeah, it could be that Cord's like, well, I need all the files and folders within, this, say, folder that I have created. Then at that point, I could simply come in here and then add Cord in here. So then at that point, he'll get a notification and he would have full access to be able to view, download, and upload from here.
Yep. Perfect.
Good.
All right. I think we have time for one more, and it's the good old, can you describe the client versus employee user roles and which users should be in what role?
Good.
I'll let
Cord do it. I'm sorry, Ricardo.
I guess the best way to think about this is any coworkers within your organization, you want to create them as employee users. Anyone you are collaborating with outside of your organization and outside of your company, you would want to create them as client users.
Yeah, I think, I think a lot of the times you got to remember, based on just how you're interacting with them, obviously anyone within your organization should always be an employee, because then, say, for instance, this was a premium account, they would have the access to projects and signatures. Of course, like Ricardo showed in the beginning, as a client, you really don't get much, right? You're only seeing what you're sharing to them as a client. That's all the basic necessity they have. That's all they do. They won't have the full options in terms of, say, workflows, projects, signatures, you name it, you have that as an employee. So definitely anyone within your organization, make them an employee, and consider, of course, everyone outside a client. So I think that's a perfect way of describing it, Ricardo.
Yep. Also, clients can't send files, so they don't have like the share on the dashboard. So, and they don't get a personal folder. So things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All righty. I think that's pretty much it. Some retention policy questions, but we can get to those offline and go from there. So I just want to thank John and Ricardo for such a great presentation, and everybody else for being here and taking time out of your day. Any questions that are unanswered, we'll follow up with online, and I will be emailing you in the next couple of days with the recording so you can share it with other people that may have missed at your organization, and check out some of those resources. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Allison. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I hope everyone has a great day.
Have a great afternoon.